Why are Germany and Austria two separate countries? After all, they speak the same language, and usually in Europe, language has been key in the formation of nation-states. Does it have something to do with the German empires remembered as the First, Second, and Third Reich? And with all this, what happened to Prussia? Its name is always remembered in German history as a very powerful state. Did it just disappear from history like that? To understand all this mishmash, it is necessary, as always, to go back to historical events that marked the fate of the beaten, but always recovered German people. Are you interested in delving a little into the chronology of the appearance of these states to better understand German history? Alright, then stay until the end of the video. As mentioned in the prelude, we will go chronologically. So we will start with the first great German state, the First Reich or Old Empire, a term with which the Holy Roman Empire is identified in modern historiography. To tell the truth, more than a unified state, the Holy Empire was a political grouping of various imperial states that included principalities, kingdoms, bishoprics, duchies, among others, which were expanding or unifying independently, but always accountable to the Holy Emperor. Yes, a kind of European Union during the Middle and Modern Ages. These states eventually spread throughout Central Europe and included all or part of the territory of present-day Germany, Austria, Slovenia, Switzerland, Czech Republic, the Netherlands, Republic of Poland, Belgium, Italy, and France. Its beginning is usually placed in 962 with the coronation of the first emperor Otto I. However, this is considered by many as the restoration of the Carolingian Empire, which they consider as the true origin of the Holy Roman Empire. This makes a lot of sense, considering that the empire founded by Charlemagne is based on the Frankish kingdom, built on the homonymous people who spoke the Frankish language. Just as Spanish and Portuguese derived from Latin, Dutch and German derive from Frankish. Yes, as I always insist, it's important to consider linguistic bases to understand the origin of peoples, so the First Reich represents the origin of the German people. Besides, the Carolingian Empire splits into three Franches post-Charlemagne's death. From the base of East Francia, the Old Empire is born, and so, the Holy Emperor maintained the hegemony of Central Europe for many centuries. Some of the still existing states that made it up are Switzerland, Liechtenstein, Luxembourg, and of course Austria. The end of the Holy Roman Empire is typically associated with its dissolution during the Napoleonic Wars. Some consider that the First Reich ended as such after the 30 Years' War, where the Habsburg dynasty, which ruled it for a long time, lost its power to such an extent that the various member states gradually disassociated themselves. Yes, there wasn't much of an empire left. The origins of Austria date back to 976, when it was founded as a march. That is, a border territory with another country militarily equipped to warn about possible invasions, as well as to regulate border trade. In this case, it was founded on the border with the then Grand Principality of Hungary. Within the Holy Empire, the marches were governed by a margrave, a title equivalent to a marquis, but in itself, Austria did not become an imperial state until its rise from margraviate to duchy in 1156. The young duchy gradually gained relevance within the Holy Empire, proving to be one of the most loyal states to the Holy Emperor. But probably, the moment that decided Austria's relevance to this day was the rise of the Habsburgo dynasty, founded in 985 in present-day Switzerland, but which later established themselves in Vienna, being strongly associated with Austria. This rise came with the coronation of Rudolf Berthamond of Habsburgo as Duke of Austria in 1278. The consolidation of Austrian power came in 1452, when for the first time a member of the House of Habsburgo, Frederick III, was crowned as Holy Emperor. A year into his reign, Austria was elevated to the status of Archduchy, thus establishing itself as the most important imperial state of the Holy Empire. In this way, Austria gained hegemony over Central Europe for many centuries at the head of the Holy Empire. However, there are several turning points that gradually made it lose this status. The first, the 30 Years' War, where with the creation of the concept of nation-state, the various German state entities gradually detached themselves from the power of the Holy Roman Empire. The next was the 7 Years' War, where Maria Theresa of Austria, the only and last ruler of the House of Habsburgo, is defeated by Prussia, who is now imposing supremacy both outside and within the Holy Roman Empire. But probably the final blow to Austrian hegemony was the Austro-Prussian War, in which Vienna is excluded from the German unification that takes place at the hands of Prussia. And I better not continue to avoid spoilers. The origins of the famous Prussia are far from what many imagine. In truth, the term Prussians refers to an ethnic group of Baltic origin, originated between present-day Lithuania and Republic of Poland. However, the ancient Prussians were conquered by the Knights of the Teutonic Order during the Baltic Crusades, where after converting them from paganism to Christianity, they founded the state of the Teutonic Order, extending over much of the Baltic region. This theocratic state was a mixture of peoples under Germans, Poles, and Balts. But in itself, the beginning of what we know today as Prussia occurs with the secularization of the eastern part in 1525 during the Protestant Reformation, thus founding the Duchy of Prussia as a fief of the then Polish-Lithuanian Confederation. As you can see, so far Prussia remains separate from the Germanic world. This would change until the personal union with the Margraviate of Brandenburg in 1618, an imperial state of the Holy Roman Empire with its capital in Berlin and ruled by the Hohenzollern dynasty since 1417. From here we speak of Brandenburg-Prussia, which is progressively gaining power from the already mentioned 30 Years' War. This union rises to the status of the Kingdom of Prussia. In 1701, now instead of being part of the Holy Empire, it began to compete with it, and in turn with Austria ruled by the absurd. As already mentioned with the 7 Years' War and the Austro-Prussian War, it achieves this supremacy over Vienna, becoming the axis of German unification. This last fact is realized after the victory in the Franco-Prussian War, where the newly formed North German Confederation, led by Prussia, achieves a decisive victory against France after proclaiming the German Empire in the Palace of Versailles. Yes, here comes the next one. The German Empire proclaimed after the unification of the various German states and the annexation of Alsace-Lorraine from France is what is known as the German Empire. While it remained a monarchy under the Hohenzollern dynasty, its greatest splendor is attributed to the remembered Chancellor Otto von Bismarck. After his famous intervention in the Berlin Conference as a mediator for the division of Africa, he turns his empire into the first and only German state to expand its borders outside the continent, annexing colonies in Africa and Oceania. However, the glory of the German Empire was quite ephemeral. In 1888, Wilhelm II of Germany ascends, who dismisses the Iron Chancellor with the aim of restoring the splendor of the monarchy. While the German Empire was at its peak, many describe the Kaiser's megalomania as the trigger for the decline of his empire, a megalomania that led him to venture into World War I. By forming alliances with the declining Austro-Hungarian and Ottoman empires, the Kaiser could not stand against the Allied coalition that unfortunately defeated the Central Powers. After the signing of the Treaty of Versailles, Wilhelm was forced to abdicate, representing the end of the Hohenzollern dynasty's rule and therefore of the German Empire. Although many consider that Germany was born with the unification of the German states under Prussian leadership, that is, with the beginning of the German Empire, the big difference is that from 1918, the monarchy was completely abolished in favor of the Weimar Republic, the first state to use the flag we know today. However, this state inherits the wounds inflicted after the shameful Treaty of Versailles, in which, in addition to taking away all its colonies, demilitarizing it, and charging them a high indemnity, they explicitly label them as the only culprits of the war, a humiliation that goes down in history. As you may know, Hitler took advantage of this to rise to power and lead Germany into World War II, and I better not say anything so as not to spoil the next term. But as you may know, after this fateful episode that ended with another German defeat, the country was divided and also lost a lot of territory. The now Federal Republic of Germany fell under the capitalist and communist axes respectively throughout the Cold War, being sharply divided by the Iron Curtain. Its reunification occurred after the fall of the Berlin Wall, which represents the end of the Cold War and the beginning of the Germany we know today, which, after two devastating world wars, has managed to resurface and reposition itself as the main power of the old continent. Returning to the wounds of the German people after the Treaty of Versailles, the beginning of the Third Reich, or Nazi Germany, is situated in 1933, with Hitler's rise to power at the hands of the National Socialist Party. This phase of German history is characterized by the spread of Nazi ideology to a humiliated and vulnerable German people in search of a strong leader to guide them. This ideology was based on extreme nationalism, the superiority of the Aryan race, living space or territorial expansionism, pan-Germanism, and a strong anti-Semitic sentiment, and anti-communist. The first step to embody his ideology was the Anschluss, where Austria was annexed. It's important to note that Hitler was Austrian by birth, so his pan-Germanic vision was to create a new German empire that included both nations. In conclusion, Hitler once again gives the German states a very fleeting splendor. Before the war, he annexes Czechoslovakia and then half of Republic of Poland, the latter being the trigger that led to the outbreak of the war. After starting with decisive victories, he manages to expand the Third Reich quickly across the continent, as well as overwhelm various puppet states that accompanied him in his campaigns. The turning point in the war occurs on the Eastern Front, where, although it begins with a successful invasion of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, its irreversible retreat begins with the Battle of Stalingrad. With the subsequent Allied landing in Normandy, the German retreat begins on the Western Front. The Third Reich began to crumble. Its final blow comes with the arrival of the Soviet Union in Berlin, where the battle that represents the German surrender, the suicide of the Führer, and the destruction of the Third Reich is fought. Both Austria and Germany are occupied by the Allies. Both successors of the ancient empire are defeated again, awaiting painful decades after which they were able to resurface to become the prosperous nations we know today. In conclusion, these have been the terms of the day today. Do you comprehend their difference? Did you know their historical origins? Don't forget to leave your comment, and if you like this video, support me with a like and subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me on my social networks, and if you are interested in supporting me in this project, any donation on Patreon will be welcome. Until next time.